Sarah Chen walked through the massive doors of the Galactic Council building. The structure reached so high into the sky that she could not see the top, made of strange crystal that seemed to glow from within. It made her feel very small. She carried herself with dignity, but inside she knew what was coming. Today would not be pleasant. The council chamber was enormous. 12 seats arranged in a circle, each one designed for a different alien species. Sarah took her place at the small human section, clearly added as an afterthought. The other races barely looked at her. After 50 years, humans were still considered newcomers who got lucky with space travel. High Counselor Thexvar spoke first. His species, the Dominion, looked like giant lizards with 6 arms and scales that changed color when they were angry. "We gather today to discuss important galactic matters," he said, his voice deep and rumbling. "Trade routes, territory disputes, and resource allocation." Sarah listened as they talked about mining rights, shipping lanes, and colony disputes. Every decision affected billions of lives across the galaxy. But when humans were mentioned, it was always brief and dismissive. The aliens treated human space like it was barely worth their time. The Zephyrian delegate spoke next. His people were made of living crystal that chimed when they moved. "The Kepler Nebula mining proposal," he said, reviewing his notes. "The humans request access to extract rare minerals." Several aliens made sounds that Sarah had learned were their version of laughter. The Zephyrian's crystal body actually rang like a bell when he laughed. "Perhaps the humans should learn to walk before they try to run," he said. More laughter filled the chamber. A hegemony representative leaned forward. The hegemony looked like huge spiders, but they wore clothing and jewelry that showed their wealth. "What do the human colonies contribute to galactic trade?" she asked. "Their little settlements produce almost nothing of value." Sarah kept her face calm, but her jaw was tight. The small device behind her ear recorded every word. Far away on Earth, people were listening to every insult. She had learned long ago to stay quiet during these moments. Speaking up only made things worse. "The human question grows tiresome," said another delegate. This one was from the Vorthan Empire, a race of beings that looked like floating jellyfish but were known to be very intelligent. Their presence in this council was a mistake. 50 years ago, we thought they might grow into something useful. We were wrong. Thexvar nodded his massive head. "Indeed. The humans occupy valuable space with their small colonies, space that could be used by more advanced civilizations for important projects." Sarah finally spoke. "The human colonies are protected under the Colonization Protection Accords. Every settlement was legally established according to galactic law." The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then the laughter started again. Louder this time. The Zephyrian delegate actually had to steady himself, as his crystal body shook with amusement. "Laws?" said Thexvar. "Little human. Laws are made by those with power. Your species exists in this galaxy because we allow it. Nothing more." A new voice spoke from across the chamber. The Keeper delegate had been quiet until now. The Keepers were ancient and mysterious. Nobody knew exactly what they looked like under their flowing robes. "Perhaps we should remember that strength comes in many forms," the Keeper said softly. This only made the other aliens laugh harder. "The Keepers always defend the weak," said the hegemony representative. "It is their way, but weakness is still weakness." Sarah watched as they voted on various matters throughout the day. When it came to human concerns, the votes were always the same. 12 to 1 against. With only the Keepers abstaining, the council treated human space like a game board where they could move pieces around without asking. During a break, Sarah walked to the observation deck. Through the crystal walls, she could see the planet Nexus Prime stretching out below. Massive cities filled with aliens from across the galaxy, ships coming and going from every direction. This was the center of galactic civilization, and humans were barely a footnote in its history. Her communication device buzzed quietly. A message from Earth Command. Status report received. Continue observation. Protocol standby confirmed. Sarah typed back quickly. Council shows increasing hostility. Recommend preparation for all scenarios. The response came back immediately. Understood. Admiral Webb sends regards. Stay strong. When the session resumed, things got worse. The Vorthan delegate proposed something called the Reorganization Initiative. Sarah felt her blood turn cold as she listened to the details. The human colonies occupy 17 star systems, the Vorthan said. These systems would be much better used for Vorthan expansion. The humans could be relocated to a smaller area. Perhaps 3 or 4 systems would be sufficient. What about the billion humans living in those colonies? Sarah asked, standing up. Thexvar looked at her like she had asked about insects. They can move. Humans reproduce quickly. They will adapt. The vote was called. Sarah watched in horror as hand after hand, claw after claw, tentacle after tentacle raised in favor of the proposal. 10 votes in favor. Only the keepers voted against. 1 abstention. The reorganization initiative passes, Thexvar announced. Humans have 72 standard hours to begin evacuation of the designated systems. Sarah's voice was steady despite her anger. 72 hours is impossible. It would take months to safely evacuate that many people. The Zephyrian delegate chimed with amusement. Then, perhaps, humans should learn to be more efficient. The session ended with the aliens chatting casually among themselves. To them, this was just another day of governance. To Sarah, it was the day they had gone too far. As she walked back to her shuttle, Sarah activated her secure communicator. The message was simple and would change everything. Control. This is Ambassador Chen. Recommend immediate implementation of Protocol Lazarus. Council has shown their true nature. All diplomatic options exhausted. Awaiting confirmation for next phase. The response came back as her shuttle lifted off from Nexus Prime. Protocol Lazarus confirmed. Admiral Webb has been notified. Return to Earth immediately. The facade ends tonight. Sarah looked back at the crystal spires of the council building one last time. The aliens inside had no idea what they had just done. For 50 years, humanity had played the role of weak newcomers. Tonight, that act would end forever. Sarah's shuttle raced through space toward Earth. She had 48 hours before the deadline to evacuate 17 human worlds. It was impossible. And the Council knew it. They wanted to see humans fail, to prove that humanity did not belong among the stars. But Sarah was not going to Earth to beg for more time. She was going to deliver the Council's ultimatum to the people who really controlled humanity's future. Her shuttle docked at what appeared to be a small space station orbiting Earth's moon. To any alien watching, it looked like a simple research facility. Sarah knew better. This was Gateway Station, the hidden entrance to humanity's true seat of power. The elevator went down, not up. Deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon, past layers of rock and metal, was a city that aliens had never seen. New Geneva stretched for kilometers in every direction. Thousands of people worked in buildings that reached both up toward the surface and down toward the moon's core. Admiral Marcus Webb waited for her in the command center. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. Behind him, massive screens showed star maps that covered not just the Milky Way galaxy, but others as well. Ambassador Chen, he said, his voice calm but serious. I take it the Council has made their position clear? Sarah handed him the data chip with the session recordings. They want us gone, Admiral. 17 worlds in 72 hours. They're not even trying to hide their contempt anymore. Webb played the recordings, listening to the aliens laugh at humanity. His face showed no emotion, but Sarah knew him well enough to see the cold anger in his eyes. 72 hours, he said quietly. Do they think we're children playing with toys? Around the command center, other officers stopped their work to listen. Colonel Zhang, the head of military intelligence. General Rodriguez, who commanded the hidden fleets. Dr. Patel, the scientist who had helped develop their secret technologies. They had all been waiting for this day. Webb turned to face the main screen. Computer, show current status of all Terran Federation assets. The The screen lit up with thousands of points of light. Sarah gasped. She had thought she knew the scope of humanity's hidden civilization. But this was far beyond what she had imagined. "Admiral," she said slowly, "how many worlds do we actually control?" 3,742, Webb replied. "And that's just in this galaxy." Dr. Patel stepped forward. "Admiral, our deep space monitoring stations report no unusual alien fleet movements. They still think we only have the colonies they know about." Webb nodded. "Good. Colonel Zhang, what's the status of our embedded assets?" "All agents in position, sir," Zhang reported. "We have people in key positions throughout Council space. Infrastructure, communications, defense networks. They've been waiting for the activation signal." Sarah was trying to understand what she was hearing. "Agents? How long have we been preparing for this?" Webb smiled for the first time since she had arrived. "Ambassador, humanity discovered faster-than-light travel 300 years ago. Not 50. Everything the Council knows about us is a carefully planned deception." He gestured to the star map. "While they fought over territory in one small corner of this galaxy, we explored everything else. We built colonies in places they never thought to look. We studied their technology and improved on it. We learned their weaknesses." General Rodriguez spoke up. "Sir, our fleet commanders are requesting permission to drop the disguises. The crews are ready." Webb looked at Sarah. "Ambassador, as our representative to the Council, I need your official recommendation. Should humanity continue to pretend we are weak? Or is it time to show the galaxy who we really are?" Sarah thought about the laughter in the Council chamber. The casual way they had talked about moving 1 billion human beings like pieces on a game board. The contempt in their voices when they spoke about human lives. "End the charade, Admiral," she said firmly. "They've shown us exactly what they think of peaceful coexistence." Webb nodded to his communications officer. "Send the activation signal. Protocol Lazarus is now in effect. All assets are to reveal themselves simultaneously in 8 hours. Operation Midnight Sun begins now." Across the command center, people began working with new urgency. Sarah watched as orders went out to places she had never heard of. Shipyards hidden in asteroid fields, military bases disguised as mining colonies, entire fleets that had been pretending to be merchant vessels for decades. "Admiral," she said, "what about the evacuation deadline?" Webb's smile was not pleasant. "There will be no evacuation, Ambassador. In 72 hours, when Council ships arrive to enforce their ultimatum, they're going to find something very different than what they expect." Colonel Zhang handed him a report. "Sir, all Council military assets have been catalogued. We have precise locations and capabilities for every major fleet." "And their response time if we strike first?" Webb asked. 6 to 8 hours for their fastest ships to coordinate any kind of response, sir. Our attack window is much longer than that." Sarah felt a chill. "Attack? Admiral, are we talking about starting a war?" Webb looked at her seriously. "Ambassador, a war started the moment they decided human lives were disposable. We're simply choosing when to fight it, on our terms, instead of theirs." "Doctor," Patel approached with another tablet. "Admiral, I have the final numbers on Operation Clean Slate. We can disable the infrastructure of every Council world simultaneously. Power grids, communication networks, transportation systems, all of it." "Casualties?" Webb asked. "Minimal if we time it correctly. The goal is to paralyze them, not genocide. Though I should point out that the Council hasn't shown the same restraint when dealing with other species." Webb studied the data for a long moment. How many species has the Council destroyed or enslaved over the past 1,000 years? "According to our historical research, at least 43 confirmed," Zhang reported. "The Keepers tried to stop some of it, but they were always outnumbered." Sarah remembered the Keeper delegate, the only one who had spoken in favor of treating humans fairly. "What about the Keepers? They'll be given a choice," Webb said. "Stand with us for real justice, or stand aside. But the age of the Council's tyranny ends tonight." The countdown timer on the main screen showed 6 hours until Operation Midnight Sunday. Sarah watched as the hidden might of humanity prepared to reveal itself. Webb turned to her one last time. "Ambassador, I want you to record a message to the Council. They gave us 72 hours. We're giving them 1 hour to surrender after we show them what we really are. Think they'll take it?" Sarah looked at the screens showing thousands of human worlds, fleets, and technologies that could reshape the galaxy. "No, Admiral. They're too proud to surrender." "They'll fight." "Good," Webb said quietly. "I was hoping they would." Admiral Webb stood in the command center as the final countdown reached 0. Around him, thousands of displays showed human assets across the galaxy. For 300 years, they had hidden their true strength. Tonight, the mask came off. "Operation Midnight Sun is active," announced the communications officer. "All units are responding." Webb watched as the galaxy changed forever. On screen after screen, ships that had pretended to be simple cargo vessels suddenly revealed weapons that should not exist. Space stations that seemed like small research outposts unfolded into massive military installations. Colonies that appeared to struggle with basic farming unveiled industrial complexes that could build entire fleets. The first shock came at the hegemony trading hub of Zenth 7. A human cargo ship called the Peaceful Trader had been making regular deliveries there for 30 years. The hegemony dock workers knew Captain Jones and his crew as friendly merchants who sold basic supplies. Tonight, Captain Jones activated his ship's true configuration. The cargo bay walls fell away to reveal quantum torpedo launchers. The simple engine room expanded into a power core that could fuel a battle station. Within minutes, the Peaceful Trader had become the UES Retribution, a dreadnought-class warship that made the hegemony's best military vessels look like toys. "This is Captain Jones, of the Terran Federation Navy," he broadcast to the stunned hegemony fleet orbiting the station. "You have 1 hour to evacuate all military vessels from this system. Any ship that remains will be considered hostile." The hegemony admiral tried to respond with threats, but his words died when the Retribution demonstrated its main weapon. A beam of pure energy reached out and touched an asteroid 50 kilometers away. The asteroid simply ceased to exist, turned into its basic atoms in less than a second. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. On Zephyrian Prime, the crystal beings watched in horror as their orbital defense platforms went offline, one by one. They thought it was a system failure until they discovered humans working in their maintenance crews. Workers who had been there for decades, learning every detail of Zephyrian technology, and who now revealed their true purpose. "This is Colonel Sarah Martinez of Terran Intelligence," broadcast a woman who the Zephyrians had known as a simple technician. "Your defense grid is under our control. Do not attempt to resist." The Zephyrians tried to activate their emergency protocols, but every computer system on their planet was now answering to human commands. Their cities went dark as humans who had been disguised as maintenance workers for years suddenly took control of the power grids. Admiral Webb monitored it all from his command center beneath Earth's moon. "Status report," he requested. 17 major council worlds have been neutralized," reported Colonel Zhang. "No casualties so far. The aliens are too shocked to mount any meaningful resistance." "Hegemony response?" Webb asked. "Their second fleet is moving toward Zenth 7, General Rodriguez replied. "Admiral Kektar is demanding that Captain Jones surrender immediately." Webb smiled. "Show me." The main screen displayed the space around Zenth 7. The Hegemony's second fleet was impressive by galactic standards: 12 heavy cruisers and 2 battle carriers, ships that had conquered dozens of systems over the centuries. They moved in perfect formation toward the human position. Captain Jones's response was calm and professional. "Hegemony vessels, you are approaching a Terran Federation defensive position. Last warning before we consider you hostile." Admiral Kektar's voice crackled with rage. "Primitive humans! You dare threaten the hegemony? We have crushed species far more advanced than your kind." "Understood," Jones replied, engaging hostile forces. What happened next lasted exactly 17 seconds. The Retribution fired a single shot that split into 12 separate beams. Each beam found a hegemony cruiser, and passed through their shields like they were made of paper. The massive warships simply came apart, their hulls separating along perfect lines as their molecular bonds were disrupted. The two carriers tried to flee, but the Retribution's weapons had a range measured in light minutes. The carriers were destroyed before they could even turn around. Admiral Kektar's personal ship was left untouched. Captain Jones opened a channel to the sole survivor. "Admiral, you are free to return to Hegemony space. Please inform your government that the Terran Federation is no longer interested in peaceful coexistence with species that view genocide as acceptable policy." Back on Earth, Webb nodded with satisfaction. "Excellent work. Next phase, Dr. Patel?" Dr. Patel consulted her reports. "All Council communication networks are now under our control. They're receiving our message whether they want to or not." Webb looked at Sarah, who had been watching the operation with amazement and growing dread. "Ambassador, would you like to do the honors?" Sarah approached the communication console. She thought about all the times she had been dismissed and mocked in the council chambers. Now it was time for the galaxy to hear a different message. "This is Ambassador Sarah Chen of the Terran Federation," she began, her voice being broadcast to every world in council space. "For 50 years, humanity has maintained peaceful relations with the Galactic Council. We followed your laws, respected your territories, and asked only for the right to exist among the stars." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Today, the Council voted to forcibly relocate billions of human beings. You laughed when we protested. You told us that we exist only by your sufferance. Tonight, you learn the truth." Webb nodded to his communications officer, who began displaying images of human fleets, cities, and technologies that the aliens had never suspected existed. "The Terran Federation controls 3,742 worlds across this galaxy," Sarah continued. "We have explored regions of space you have never imagined. We possess technologies that make your greatest achievements look primitive. For 3 centuries, we have watched and waited, hoping that galactic civilization would prove itself worthy of joining." The images shifted to show the destruction of the Hegemony fleet, the disabled Zephyrian defenses, and dozens of other human victories achieved in the past few hours. "You have failed that test. The age of the Council's tyranny is over. Here are our terms. All member species of the Galactic Council have 24 hours to remove their military forces from human space. Any vessel that remains will be destroyed without warning." Sarah's voice hardened. "Furthermore, the Council will immediately cease all aggressive actions against non-member species. The Terran Federation will no longer tolerate genocide as a tool of policy." She looked directly into the camera. "To those species who have suffered under Council oppression, know that you are no longer alone. To the Council members who believe their power makes them untouchable, tonight has proven you wrong." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, aliens sat in stunned silence as they realized that the weak humans they had mocked for decades were actually the most powerful force in known space. Webb turned to his command staff. "How long before they respond?" "The Dominion is already mobilizing their grand fleet," reported Colonel Zhang. "High Counselor Thexvar has declared humanity a threat to galactic order." "Good," Webb said. "I was hoping someone would be stupid enough to test us directly. General Rodriguez, prepare the Soul Defense Grid for visitors. Let's show them what a real fortress world looks like." High Counselor Thexvar stood in the command center of the Dominion flagship, Eternal Glory. Around him, the largest fleet in galactic history prepared for battle. 2,000 ships from across the Council races, united for the first time in centuries. They came from every corner of known space to destroy the humans who dared to challenge galactic order. "Contact the human system," Thexvar ordered. His massive clawed hands gripped the command chair as he prepared to show these primitive beings the price of defiance. "Tell them they have one chance to surrender." The Zephyrian admiral beside him chimed with anticipation. "Counselor, should we offer them the same mercy they showed our fleets? Perhaps 72 hours to evacuate their worlds?" The bridge filled with harsh laughter. The assembled alien commanders enjoyed the irony. They would give humanity exactly what humanity had been given: an impossible deadline and certain destruction. The communication came back quickly. A calm human voice answered their demands. "This is Admiral Webb of the Terran Federation. You are approaching Sol's system, which is now under Federation protection. Turn back immediately." Thexvar leaned forward. "Admiral Webb, I am High Counselor Thexvar of the Galactic Council. You face the combined might of 12 species. 2,000 warships carry enough firepower to crack planets. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to exist as slaves." There was a pause, then Webb replied, and Thexvar could hear something like amusement in the human's voice. "Counselor, I appreciate you bringing your entire fleet to one location. It makes this much simpler." "Makes what simpler?" Thexvar demanded. "Your education," Webb said, and the transmission ended. The Council fleet emerged from hyperspace, expecting to find a few human worlds defended by primitive ships. Instead, they found something impossible. The star itself was wrong. Where Earth's sun should have been, they saw a structure that surrounded the entire star. A sphere of metal and energy collectors that captured every bit of light and heat the sun produced. The Dyson sphere was massive beyond imagination, easily large enough to hold billions of people and industries that could build fleets in days instead of years. "That is not possible," whispered the Vorthan Admiral. "No species has the resources to build something that large." But it was not just the sphere that shocked them. As their ships approached, weapons platforms revealed themselves throughout the solar system. What they had thought were asteroids opened up to show gun barrels the size of cities. Defensive stations that had been hidden behind small moons suddenly powered up with energy signatures that hurt to look at. Admiral Webb's voice came from everywhere at once. "Counselor Thexvar, you are now inside the Sol defense grid. Every weapon system in this solar system is aimed at your fleet. You have 60 seconds to begin retreat, or we will demonstrate why the Terran Federation has never lost a battle." Thexvar was too proud to show fear, but around him, his officers were beginning to understand the scale of their mistake. "Admiral Webb," he said slowly, "you cannot defend against 2,000 ships. No matter how advanced your technology, we will overwhelm you with numbers. All me. Lives SIPS team. Live SIPS team." "Counselor," Webb replied, "you're thinking too small." Earth's moon suddenly changed. The surface that had looked normal from a distance split open along hidden seams. What emerged was not rock or dirt, but metal. Weapon arrays that stretched across the moon's entire surface, each one larger than the biggest ships in the Council fleet. But it was not Earth's moon that ended the battle. It was the sun itself. The Dyson sphere focused the star's entire energy output into a single beam of light that could have powered entire civilizations. When it fired, space itself seemed to tear. The beam reached out and touched the center of the Council fleet. 50 ships simply stopped existing. Not destroyed or damaged. Erased. The energy was so concentrated that it broke down matter at the atomic level. Where proud warships had been, there was now only empty space. "Holy depths," whispered the Hegemony Admiral. "They can weaponize a star." But the humans were not finished. From hidden positions throughout the solar system, more weapons fired. These were different. They seemed to fold space around Council ships, crushing them like invisible hands. Others opened holes in reality itself, creating mini black holes that swallowed entire squadrons. The Zephyrian fleet tried to fight back, firing their most powerful weapons at the human positions. Their crystal ship's energy beams were famous for cutting through any armor. Against human shields, they simply disappeared, absorbed by defensive fields that seemed to bend the laws of physics. In less than 10 minutes, half the Council fleet was gone. The remaining ships tried to flee, but found their hyperspace engines would not work. The humans had somehow created a field that prevented faster-than-light travel. Thexvar watched his proud armada being destroyed ship by ship. "Admiral Webb," he called desperately, "we surrender. Call off your weapons." "Surrender accepted," Webb replied. But your education is not complete. A single human ship emerged from behind Earth's moon. It was small compared to the massive council vessels, sleek and simple in design. But as it approached the remaining council fleet, reality seemed to bend around it. "This is the UES Prometheus," came a new voice. "We will escort your surviving ships out of Federation space. Consider this mercy, not weakness." Borfrun, going by, the Prometheus moved past the council fleet, and as it did, something impossible happened. Space folded. The small human ship simply stepped sideways through dimensions, appearing instantly next to Thexvar's flagship. "How?" Thexvar gasped. The Prometheus answered by demonstrating weapons that the Council had never imagined. It reached out with beams of pure force and gently pushed the massive Dominion flagship backward, moving it like it weighed nothing. "Counselor," Webb's voice was calm and patient, like a teacher explaining something to a slow student. "Humanity discovered how to manipulate space, time, and energy 300 years ago. While your species fought over territory, we learned to reshape reality itself. Around the solar system, more human ships began to appear. Not dozens or hundreds, but thousands. They materialized from nothing, stepping through folded space from distant galaxies." Admiral Webb continued speaking as Thexvar watched his worldview crumble. "The Terran Federation spans 17 galaxies, Counselor. We have colonies in places your scientists think are impossible to reach. We have been observing civilizations that your species has never heard of. The surviving council ships were being herded toward the edge of the solar system by invisible forces. They could not fight, could not flee, could only drift helplessly while humans decided their fate." "Why?" Thexvar asked finally. "If you are so powerful, why did you pretend to be weak? Why join our council at all?" Webb's answer was simple and terrifying. "We wanted to see if your civilization was worth preserving. For 50 years, we watched and waited, hoping you would show wisdom, justice, or mercy. Instead, you showed us that you view other species as toys, to be moved around for your amusement." The Prometheus guided Thexvar's flagship to the hyperspace entry point. "You may return to your worlds, Counselor. Tell them what you have seen here. Explain to them that humanity is no longer asking for permission to exist. We are telling them how things will be from now on." As the surviving council ships limped away from Sol, Thexvar looked back at the solar system that had just destroyed the greatest fleet in galactic history. The humans had used weapons that violated everything he thought he knew about physics. They had demonstrated technologies that could reshape stars and fold space. Most terrifying of all, they had shown mercy. They could have destroyed every council ship in seconds, but they chose to let survivors escape. This was not the behavior of a species driven by anger or revenge. This was the calculated response of a civilization that was playing a game on a scale the council could not comprehend. "Admiral," one of his officers asked quietly, "what are your orders?" Thexvar stared at the Dyson sphere, growing smaller in the distance. "Send a message to all council worlds. Tell them the age of our dominance is over. Tell them that humanity was never the junior species in this relationship." He paused, his scales shifting to the colors of fear and defeat. "Tell them we have been children playing with toys, and we just met the adults." 3 months later, Ambassador Sarah Chen walked through the council chambers on Nexus Prime. But everything had changed. The crystal spires still reached toward the sky, but now they bore the scars of battle. Cracks ran through the walls where human ships had fired warning shots during their diplomatic visit. The great circular chamber looked smaller now. 6 of the 12 seats sat empty. Their former occupants either fled to distant systems or ruling over worlds that no longer mattered. The hegemony had lost half their territory when their slave species rebelled with human support. The Zephyrian Empire had crumbled when their crystal cities lost power for a week, showing their people how weak their leaders really were. Sarah took her place at what was no longer the human section. The Terran Federation now had the largest delegation in the chamber, with representatives from the 17 galaxies under human control. Behind her sat delegates from dozens of species that had joined the Federation after learning the truth about galactic politics. High Counselor Thexvar looked older now. His scales had lost their bright color, and his 6 arms moved slowly as he called the session to order. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Chen of the Terran Federation," he said, his voice lacking the arrogance it once held. Sarah stood and activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. The image showed star maps that made the remaining council members gasp, thousands of galaxies, dotted with the blue lights of human civilization. "Members of what was once called the Galactic Council," she began. "Today, we establish the new order that will govern civilized space. The Terran Federation presents the Charter of Galactic Rights." The document appeared before each delegate. As they read it, Sarah watched their faces change from confusion to shock to understanding. The charter was not a treaty between equals. It was a set of rules handed down by a superior power. Article 1, Sarah read aloud. "No species may wage war of conquest against another. Any aggressive military action must be approved by the Federation Council and have clear justification." The Vorthan delegate, one of the few original council members still in power, raised a tentacle. "Ambassador Chen, this would end the territorial expansion that has driven galactic civilization for millennia." Sarah nodded. "Yes, it will. The Federation has observed that territorial expansion through conquest leads to the oppression of weaker species. This practice will no longer be tolerated." She continued reading. Article 2. "All sentient species have the right to self-governance within their own territory. No species may be enslaved, relocated, or exterminated by another." Thexvar leaned forward. "And if a species refuses to follow these rules?" Sarah's smile was not pleasant. "The Terran Federation will enforce compliance. We have found that most species become very cooperative after seeing what happened to the forces that attacked Sol System." The holographic display changed to show the current state of galactic civilization. Red zones marked areas where the Federation was actively intervening to stop conflicts. Blue zones showed regions under direct Federation protection. Green zones indicated species that had voluntarily joined the new order. "The Federation currently has peacekeeping fleets in 47 star systems," Sarah explained. "We are stopping 3 separate genocides, ending 2 slave trade networks, and mediating territorial disputes that the old council had ignored for centuries." A new voice spoke from the shadows. The Keeper delegate stepped forward, lowering the hood that had hidden their features for so long. Beneath was a face that looked almost human but with eyes that seemed to hold the weight of ages. "Ambassador Chen," the Keeper said, "my people have watched over galactic civilization for 10,000 years. We tried to guide the younger species toward wisdom and justice. We failed. Perhaps it is time for new guardians." Sarah bowed respectfully to the ancient being. "The Federation would be honored to work with the Keepers. Your wisdom and knowledge would be invaluable in building a better galaxy." The Keeper nodded slowly. "We accept. The Keepers will share our archives with the Federation. Perhaps humanity can succeed where we could not." Thexvar looked around the chamber at the empty seats and broken alliances. "Ambassador, what happens to the remaining council species? Do we simply surrender all authority?" "You adapt," Sarah replied simply. "The Dominion, what remains of the hegemony, the Zephyrian city-states, all of you can continue to govern your own worlds, but your days of dictating terms to other species are over." Dr. Patel's voice came through the chamber's communication system. "Ambassador, I have an update on Project Reconstruction." Sarah nodded. "Share it with the Council." The display changed again, showing images that made several aliens gasp in wonder. Destroyed worlds were being rebuilt with technology that seemed like magic. Planets that had been strip-mined were growing forests again. Species that had been thought extinct were thriving in carefully prepared habitats. "The Federation has been reversing the damage caused by centuries of careless expansion," Dr. Patel explained. "We can restore dead worlds, bring back extinct species, and heal the wounds that galactic civilization has inflicted on itself." A small, nervous voice spoke from the back of the chamber. It was a delegate from the Gentle Folk, a species that had been enslaved by the hegemony for 300 years. They had only recently been freed by human intervention. Ambassador Chen, the creature said, its voice shaking with emotion. My people have suffered for so long. How do we know the Federation will not simply become new oppressors? Sarah turned to face the small delegate directly. Because we don't want to rule you. The Federation's goal is to ensure that what happened to your people never happens again to anyone. When your species is ready, you will govern yourselves. Until then, we will help you heal. Admiral Webb's image appeared on the main screen, broadcasting from the Federation Command Center beneath Earth's moon. Council members, I want to show you something that might help you understand our position. The display shifted to show space far beyond the galactic rim. Structures that dwarfed even the Dyson sphere around Sol stretched across the void, cities floating between galaxies, connected by bridges of light that spanned impossible distances. This is Andromeda Station, Webb explained. One of 47 intergalactic installations, where the Federation conducts its real work. While your species have been fighting over this one galaxy, we have been building a civilization that spans the entire local group of galaxies. The images continued, showing technologies and achievements that made the Council's greatest works look like children's toys. Ships the size of moons, artificial worlds custom-built for different species, star-sized computers that could simulate entire universes. The point, Webb continued, is that the Federation doesn't need your galaxy. We don't need your resources, your territory, or your submission. We intervened because we believe that every species deserves the chance to reach its potential without being crushed by neighbors who view them as insects. Sarah looked around the chamber at the faces of beings who were beginning to understand the true scope of what they faced. The old council ruled through fear and force. The Federation rules through example and opportunity. Join us, and we will show you technologies that can eliminate scarcity, cure diseases, and extend lifespans beyond your imagination. Oppose us, and you will be left behind as the galaxy moves into a better future. Thexvar was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was thoughtful rather than angry. Ambassador, if I may ask a personal question, how long have you known? When you sat in this chamber being mocked and dismissed, did you already know that humanity could destroy us all? Sarah smiled sadly. Every day for 5 years, Counselor. Every time you laughed at human weakness, every time you voted to ignore human concerns, every time you treated us like we were barely worth your attention. I knew that a single human ship could level this entire planet. She paused, letting that sink in. But I also hoped that you would prove worthy of joining something greater. That hope died when you voted to forcibly relocate 1 billion human beings because it was convenient for your expansion plans. Rubble. The chamber fell silent as the reality of their situation fully hit home. They had not just underestimated humanity. They had been completely unaware that they were insects trying to threaten gods. Finally, the Keeper delegate spoke again. What comes next, Ambassador? Sarah gestured to the star map showing the Federation's true extent. Next, we heal this galaxy. We end the cycles of conquest and oppression that have defined civilization here. And then, when this region of space has learned to live in peace, we introduce you to the real galaxy. The display zoomed out, showing not just the Milky Way but thousands of other galaxies, each containing civilizations that the Council had never imagined. The Federation is in contact with 43 different galactic civilizations. Some are peaceful. Some are hostile. Some are so advanced that they make us look primitive. You thought this council represented the pinnacle of achievement. You were occupying one small corner of the nursery. As the session ended and delegates filed out of the chamber, Sarah remained behind with the Keeper. The ancient being approached her with something like respect in their ageless eyes. You could have simply destroyed us, the Keeper said quietly. Most species with your level of power would have seen us as threats to be eliminated. Quote, Sarah looked out through the crystal walls at the ships coming and going from Nexus Prime. Many of them were now Federation vessels, but others belonged to the surviving Council species, learning to adapt to the new reality. Destruction is easy, she replied. Building something better takes patience. Humanity spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment. Not because we wanted to conquer the galaxy, but because we wanted to save it from itself. The keeper nodded slowly. Perhaps there is hope for us all after all. Sarah smiled as she watched a ship from the liberated gentlefolk dock at the station. Its crew waved at human peacekeepers who had helped them build their new civilization. There always was. You just needed someone to show you what it looked like. As she left the chamber that had once echoed with mocking laughter, Sarah thought about Admiral Webb's words from the night this all began. Humanity had never wanted their galaxy. They had simply wanted to see if galactic civilization deserved to survive. Now, watching species that had once enslaved each other, working together to build a better future, she had her answer. It did deserve to survive. It just needed better management.